It's that time of the year again, everyone. Grab some popcorn because we are going to dive into the top 10 best places to retire in the world this year, according to the annual International Living Retirement Index. Now, if you know me and you know my channel, you know that we don't sugarcoat things here. So I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel about these destinations, if I agree with the list, and I'm going to share the pros as well as the cons on all of the most important factors that you need to take into consideration when you're thinking about where to retire abroad. Things like healthcare, housing, safety, visas, taxes, you name it. So let's jump right in. Malaysia is in 10th place on the list this year, so it's dropped back a few spots since last year. And what people like about Malaysia is definitely the safety, the healthcare, and the climate. You've got a warm climate, a low cost of living as well. Anytime you're going to be in that region of Southeast Asia, you can look at a cost of living of between $1,000 to $2,000 per month, depending on the type of lifestyle that you're looking for. But one thing's for sure, you can live well in this region of the world, and Malaysia is no exception. It's one of the countries on this list that I've actually never been to because I'm not retired yet. I work remotely and it's not the best time zone for me to work in. But if you're retired and you don't have to worry about clocking in for work, you're just looking for a warm place that's really safe, that's going to be warm year round, and that also has really affordable flights to other places in the region if you want to go to places like Thailand, Cambodia, the Philippines, Japan, and really explore around Southeast Asia. This is a really interesting option for you. One of the things to know about Malaysia is that they don't have an exact retirement visa like some other countries do in the region. They have what's called the Malaysia My Second Home program, and it's more designed for investors. You don't necessarily have to be of retirement age to be able to qualify for this visa, and it's going to give you a fixed term of a number of years that you can stay there for. But what people don't like about it is that it's pretty pricey, especially compared to other countries like the Philippines nearby. You do have to have a pretty hefty deposit in a bank account there, and it can range anywhere from $65,000 up to $1 million. There's a lot of rules around housing requirements and things like that as well. So that's definitely one of the downsides there. But if you're looking for a place with these types of attributes, then it could be for you. Now, one of my YouTube subscribers who watched a previous video on my channel commented about Malaysia, and they said that for them, it's the top place to retire in the world. They say English is widely spoken, it's warm year round, you've got good foods, mountains, beaches, rainforests, and also Malaysians are known for their friendly and hospitable personalities. The healthcare system's excellent, and as a retiree from America, you can live comfortably on your monthly Social Security benefits because the cost of living in Malaysia is 70% less than the United States. He's not wrong, because if you look at the cost of living for a local in Kuala Lumpur, we're looking at around $833 per month. It's going to be a bit more for an expat, around $1,100 per month. And if you're just living there a short time, just passing through, for digital nomads, the cost of living can go up to $1,500 or $2,000 per month. So still pretty affordable compared to what your retirement dollars might get you back in the United States. Thailand, located just next door, has moved up one spot from last year, and that's because this country offers a lot of value for foreigners who would like to live there. Again, because it's in Southeast Asia, you will have a lower cost of living even compared to Latin America and an Eastern European country. So you can also keep your cost of living below $1,000 per month, although some of my YouTube subscribers have said that they live on much more for the type of lifestyle that they want. One who's been there 10 years said he's lived in Bangkok and the Isan countryside. He's back in Bangkok now, but let's be realistic. You need $2,000 to $2,500 per month to live comfortably here, $3,000 or more if you're in Bangkok. When I traveled for a month in Thailand, I definitely spent less than that, but it depends on your budget. Another subscriber who's living in Thailand right now, he said he's renewing his retirement visa today for the 8th year in Chiang Mai, Thailand, doesn't see himself living anywhere else, and because the cost of living is so low, he travels 10 to 12 weeks per year. He also noted that the cost of his visa, which we'll talk about in just a minute, is $52 to renew. So the cost of living is still affordable in Thailand, but it is rising over the years as it is in many countries. However, I still see rent prices very often in the $300 to $600 per month range, and that's for fully furnished properties, studios, and one bedrooms. And you can still eat a meal on the street for just $1 or so, and the restaurants and markets are very affordable as well. Even at a nicer restaurant, you might only pay $15 or $20 to go out to eat, whereas that can be a lot higher in Europe and the US and Canada. On the downside, and this goes for Malaysia as well, I don't think people realize how hot it gets in Thailand. So this subscriber was living in Chiang Mai, which is a little bit cooler there, but if you're in Bangkok, if you're on the beaches, it is really hot and humid. And that's saying a lot coming from me because I'm from South Florida. So it was definitely an adjustment for me to stay there and work there online. You've got to have a good air conditioner there. But if you're, too hot and you need to relax, you can always go head down to the beach, get a massage. So it's really nice for services, which can be very affordable compared to what you're probably used to. I haven't been there in a few years, but when I was there, it was like a couple of dollars to get a massage, go to the spa, manicure, pedicure. So you can still keep your costs pretty low there. Another thing to keep in mind is the burning season that especially hits places like Chiang Mai. This runs from mid-February through May, where the air quality can be terrible. However, December and January are absolutely stunning there. The language barrier is also a real consideration, especially if you're outside of the tourist areas. But I do have friends who've been living in Thailand for upwards of 10 years, and they've been able to learn how to speak fluent Thai. But if you are planning to retire there, then make sure that you do get an official retirement visa, because Thailand has been really cracking down on visa runs with digital nomads, but also retirees as well. A lot of people will be going on the retirement visa there, and typically what you would do is you would apply for a short stay tourist visa from home, which would give you about 90 days, and then you would transition to the more long-term retirement visa once you get there. But this does also come with a cost. You do have to have a local bank account with a deposit of 800,000 Thai baht in there. And that comes out to around 23,000 US dollars, or you can also show a monthly income of around $1,850 to $2,000, or some combination of having money in the bank and also that consistent income. You'll also need a police clearance document, a medical certificate, and proof of health insurance. There's also the Thai privilege card as an option, which can give you anywhere from 5 to 20 years to be able to stay in the country, but that comes with a cost as well, from $20,000 to upwards of more than $100,000. So the cost is definitely something to consider there when you compare it to somewhere like Costa Rica or Panama or other countries in South America specifically, where as long as you just show that you have a certain amount of income, maybe $1,000 per month or so, you can go into the country without having to make such a big bank deposit. Thailand now taxes worldwide income if you stay there longer than 180 days per year, so this also has a huge impact on many retirees. As far as places to live, one of my subscribers recommended Hua Hin. He said, especially for retirees, if you're looking for house cleaning services, assisted living facilities, he says that it's kind of becoming a place where retirees can go to get a lot of home help and also medical care. So if that's something that you're looking for, then make sure to check out Hua Hin, and I'll leave some other places to go in Thailand on the next screen. In 8th place, we have Spain, which I am so surprised to see so low on this list, because undoubtedly Spain is one of the top 2 countries that my relocation clients like to move to, and they are very happy there. I just got back from Spain, and we're going to be sharing a lot of videos with you about the real lifestyle in Spain. But one of the things that people share with me that they really love about living there is definitely the pace of life, the slower pace of life. It's one of those places that your nervous system just relaxes. You can really just, people watch, enjoy the day, go for a walk, hang out at a cafe, and just watch the world go by. And that's something that you'll definitely experience there unless you're living in the center of Madrid or Barcelona, somewhere very busy. But overall, that slower lifestyle, also the weather is a huge draw as well, especially for Europe. It's a much warmer country than many of its European neighbors. You have a lot more sunny days per year, and you have a lot milder winters. Healthcare in Spain is also ranked among the top 20 globally, and it's essentially free if you are a resident or citizen there. So it might be a few different fees, or you can go for a private healthcare option where you can spend around $100 per month or so. But people really appreciate that, and they also love the transportation options there. You can get around in any way, shape, or form. Lots of walking if you want to get your steps in. You can rent bikes for just a few euro per year. You've got very low bus fares, less than €1 in many cases if you have a public transit card. You also have trains that can connect you around the country, and also a lot of different airports, so you can get those really affordable regional flights to other parts of Europe. On the downside, the language barrier is really something to take into consideration if you don't speak Spanish. I didn't notice it as much because I've been speaking Spanish for the last 20 years, but if you don't speak Spanish, it's going to be a lot harder to make friends and integrate there, and you might find yourself, kind of being a part of the expat bubble, as it's called. So make sure to take some language classes and really commit to learning the language in that first year that you're living there, and then it will make the rest of the years that you're there so much easier. Also, in the past year, Spain has been in the news a lot. There's been a lot of controversy over anti-tourism protests, which don't seem like such a big deal when you're actually there and you're talking to the locals, but those definitely happened. The pictures, the videos, the graffiti, everything is there. So it's maybe not as welcoming as it's been in previous years, but again, I didn't experience any of that personally. Sometimes things can get blown out of proportion on the internet, as we know. But another thing to take into consideration is the taxes there. So Spain has pretty high taxes, going up to about 47%, and they also will tax worldwide income. But there are tax treaties between the US and Spain, and my clients who live in Spain say that even though they know that they're going to be paying taxes there, they say that the benefits outweigh the costs, and being able to have that nicer lifestyle, the better quality food, the weather, just everything, and the quality of life and the experience of living there is really worth it for them. So I want you to think really deeply about that. If taxes are a big consideration for where you end up retiring, if you've saved money your whole life to be able to retire and you're not getting the quality of life that you expected in the place that you're living now, even if you are paying taxes in a foreign country, it might be worth it to go there, get that lower cost of living, and actually be able to live the lifestyle that you want instead of going to a country that doesn't tax your foreign income or pensions, but where you're not going to be as happy and fulfilled. The main visa for retirees in Spain is called the non-lucrative visa, and you can qualify for it for what's called 4 times the monthly economic indicator. It's called the IPREM. And at the time of recording this video, that comes out to around $34,000 per year, and that can be in savings or also passive income or pensions. The initial visa is valid for 1 year, after which you can extend it and then eventually apply for permanent residency after 5 years, citizenship after 10 years. But to continue extending, you do need to show that you are living in Spain for the majority of the year. Another key factor about this visa is that you're not allowed to work while you're on the non-lucrative visa. So it is exclusively designed for retirees, so you can't be self-employed, you can't work remotely. If you do want to do that, then you'd want to go for a different type of work visa or a digital nomad visa. One of my subscribers said that he primarily spent time in Valencia and was very impressed with the people there. He said it's a very communal country where families go to outdoor restaurants and spend hours there talking without everyone's heads buried in their phones. When I was there, he says, I felt so calm. And also, if you go to a restaurant, if the menu says 10 euro for a dish, that's what it costs. France fell 2 spots down the list from last year, and I really don't agree with this because it's definitely among the top 2 countries for my relocation clients, and people really love the French long stay visa. It's a very flexible visa option for people of all different income ranges, and also if you're a remote worker or a retiree. So it's not specifically for retirees, but what people really like about it is that you don't have to have a huge amount of income to qualify. It's actually around the French minimum wage of currently 18,000 euro, which comes out to around 21,000 US dollars of income per year. France is an ideal place to retire abroad if you're looking to move quickly, and the country also consistently ranks among the top 10 in Europe when it comes to healthcare. France is also for you if you love food, the arts, history, cafe culture, or nature. I've been to France many times, and no matter where I go in the country, I always feel like I'm pinching myself because it's just so beautiful, whether you're in the countryside or the coastal areas. I have so many memories of walking through Cannes and Biarritz and the vineyards of Saint-Emilion. And it's not as expensive as you might think. Of course, if you're going there for vacation and you're staying in the heart of Paris, it's gonna cost you. But when you're actually living in France, you can find grocery prices very reasonable, housing prices as well, and rent prices from $500 to $800 per month, depending on where you are, maybe $1,000 per month if you're renting an unfurnished long-term property. But a single person can definitely live in France for less than $2,000 per month. And if you're a couple, maybe more around $2,500, $3,000. Of course, if you wanna go big and buy a home or rent a very expensive property, then that could be your rent budget alone. But if you're looking to live on a budget, you can definitely do that in France. And I think that's why the visa requirements are lower than in many other countries. On the downside, because France is such an attractive place to live, a lot of people have been going there, and this has attracted some negative news in the local French media and also a lot of criticism over foreign citizens, especially Americans who are moving there and not paying allegedly their fair share for healthcare access. So there are some laws in the works to add an additional fee for people coming in on a different visa who want to access the healthcare system there, but it should still be a very reasonable fee compared to what US citizens are used to paying in the United States. And overall, I think all of us who are planning to move to different countries want to contribute to the economy and want to have a positive impact there. Taxes are also known to be high in France, and this is the reason why some people don't want to go there, especially because of the inheritance tax. But there is a tax treaty between the US and France, so you might end up only paying US taxes and then reporting those on your French tax return, but hopefully you don't have to pay much more. If you would like some tax recommendations, I will link to a company that I use in the description below, because not an accountant, not able to give financial advice in these videos, but you definitely want to make sure you have a very good expat accountant for the country that you're moving from and the country that you're moving to. And it took me many years to be able to find good people, so I'm happy to share them with you. One of the interesting things that goes for France, but also other countries as well, is how we see that country as outsiders versus how the locals see it. And one French citizen commented on one of my videos. She said, "Why France? I'm from France. I grew up there and I moved to the US 40 years ago. It's a beautiful country and the food is outstanding. However, the people can be very unfriendly. It's become an unsafe place to live and everything is expensive." She said big cities like Paris are unsafe and some neighborhoods are very dangerous. So she recommends going there for vacation, to visit, but not living there. But I always find that so interesting because this is part of immigration, right? We all are migrating to different countries for different reasons, and people who come to the US come here for different reasons, and US citizens who leave the US leave for different reasons. And I know that everyone who I know who's living in France really enjoys it there. One of my other subscribers commented that it was their first time in the French Riviera on the long stay visa. They were absolutely blown away, just the beauty and the whole vibe. They do find it a bit expensive to eat out, so they don't eat out very much, but the grocery shopping is amazing and very reasonable. And I agree, I've actually said this before in videos, but if you've never been in a French grocery store before and you get the opportunity to go, it will change your life. It's just an amazing experience. It's better than any Whole Foods or any grocery store I've ever been to in the United States. Italy moved up a few spots on this list from last year, and I'm not sure I agree with this one as well. A lot of my clients who initially planned to move to Italy actually change their minds and go somewhere else like France or Spain once they figure out the income requirements for the elective residence visa and also the length of time it takes to get the visa and some of the bureaucracy in Italy. So if you can get through that, it is a nice place to live, a great place to retire, but some of my clients do change their minds when they look at the reality of applying and qualifying for the retirement visa in Italy versus in other countries. But if you have the income for it, it's a great place to go, especially if you can qualify for the Italian investor visa. But besides the amazing food throughout Italy, the country offers incredible diversity. You can live in the Dolomites with mountain views, Tuscany with rolling vineyards and hillsides, or Sicily or the south of Italy for beach access. The food is world-class and the culture in Italy is unmatched. Real estate can also be surprisingly affordable outside of major cities. You can find homes starting at 30,000 to 50,000 euro that need renovation, maybe a few €1 properties here and there, and also move-in ready places for $130,000 to $200,000. The thing about Italy, besides the slow bureaucracy, is definitely the healthcare. It's not the best in the world, it's not the best in Europe. It actually ranks 47th worldwide, and you can access the private as well as the public system there. So if you're not comfortable with that, you can get private insurance as well that can be around $100 or $200 per month. But the main thing to think about if you're planning to retire in Italy is to plan ahead, because we definitely plan at least 6 to 9 months ahead of time because of the slower bureaucracy there. And it's also important to know about the income requirements there for the elective residence visa that might be different than what are publicly stated. So official numbers might be around $37,000 to $38,000 per year in passive income, but depending on the consulate that you apply at, I've seen, some of our advisors and lawyers have recommended having double that, especially if you're going as a couple or a family, which families can also qualify for this visa. But it's really important to know that it's not just about having a lot of money in the bank, savings, investments, assets, IRAs. You have to have a recurring monthly income coming in, whether it's from an annuity or a pension, 401k. You can't just show money on paper and get into Italy. You have to show that you're going to be receiving that income consistently. And also it's a place that you should want to live permanently and not just, go for a couple years, experience it and leave. So you really need to show that you're serious about moving to Italy, that you have the financial resources, that you're moving there permanently, and then, hopefully you can get approved. Your quality of life can also vary a lot depending on where you are in Italy. There's obviously a lot of smaller towns and villages that can be very beautiful and picturesque, but can struggle from a lack of economic growth, opportunities, and also a dwindling population. So you're gonna have very distinct differences in your lifestyle, whether you're in one of the big cities like Rome, whether you're in the south or whether you're in the north, which tends to be the region that locals express that they have a better quality of life and more of the developed northern cities and also better weather there, cooler weather as well. But I do have a full video on the best places to live in Italy that you can watch here, so I will link to that as well in the description. One of my subscribers also commented about the taxes in Italy, which you can get an opportunity to lower your taxes to 7% depending on where you live. But she says Italy has an average cost of living, but the high tax rates make it too much for her to want to live there. Mexico is right in the middle of the list, pretty similar compared to previous years, and I do agree with this. I think that Mexico is a very consistent, reliable option as far as places to retire abroad, especially if you're coming from the US or Canada, heading south of the border. Pretty close flights compared to hopping the pond over to Europe or flying all the way to places like Thailand, Malaysia, Southeast Asia. So you can get that nicer, warmer weather. You've got a lot of variety in places that you can choose to live, from Mexico City, Oaxaca, bigger cities, to smaller suburbs around the cities like Puebla, for example, or going over to Baja California. You've got that California climate and outdoorsy lifestyle, or over on the Caribbean side, places like Playa del Carmen and the Riviera Maya, where you have the beautiful tropical vibes, the white sand, the blue water. So Mexico has a lot to offer, but I think you have to be really intentional about where you go there and about the experience that you want to have. If you want to kind of live like a local in somewhere like Querétaro, or if you want to be in those expat communities in places like Lake Chapala, San Miguel de Allende, Cabo San Lucas, Playa del Carmen as well, although that's definitely a mix. But it can be really easy to stay in the expat bubble there in Mexico, depending on where you're living, if you don't learn Spanish. And despite the cost of living being relatively low in Mexico, depending on where you're living, this is a place where I would say you can live between around $1,500 per month, $1,800 per month, up to $3,000, especially if you're living in a nicer area, more luxurious property in places like Playa del Carmen, Puerto Vallarta. But if you live like a local, you can definitely keep your income down. But the interesting thing about Mexico, because it doesn't have a specific retiree visa, they have a temporary residency option and a permanent residency option, but the amount of income that you have to show to get these visas is a lot higher than what the actual cost of living is there. So that's something that does, kind of turn some people off from moving to Mexico. You'll need proof of a minimum balance of over $70,000 in the bank for the last few years, or you'll need to show that you make around $4,400 per month after taxes from Social Security or a job. Regardless, one of my subscribers commented on my last retirement video. She said, 14 years in Mexico, still happy. No matter where you live, there are pluses and minuses. I live in a comfortable home near the beach on the Yucatan side, and my family home here only cost around $47,000 US, but that was 14 years ago. Another viewer who's a retired New York City police officer said he moved to Mexico from Florida 3 years ago. Best move ever. I live in Querétaro, he says. It's safer here than anywhere in the US, and this is coming from a retired New York City police officer. The next country on our list is probably somewhere that you've considered retiring to at one point or another, and that is Portugal. And I find it interesting that it dropped a few places from last year, because a lot of you in my comments have been saying things recently that Portugal is overrated and that you don't want to move there anymore. I think that this probably has to do with the rising cost of living, the rising housing prices, the change in the NHR tax regime, which was really beneficial for foreigners, and also just a general sentiment that's in the news media about, too many Americans living in Portugal. So I can see, some of the reasons why it's not as popular as it was in previous years, but at the same time, 10 or 15,000 US citizens living in Portugal is definitely not having a huge impact. I actually made an entire video dedicated to that. If you'd like to watch it, I'll link to that below and also in a card up here. But what you need to know if you are thinking of moving to Portugal is that it still has a lot of benefits. On paper, I always say that Portugal is the perfect place to retire, because it has a low to moderate cost of living. It's one of the cheapest countries in Western Europe. It has a very advanced healthcare system, which ranks in the top 23 countries worldwide. It also has a really sunny and mild climate, similar to its neighbor Spain. And it's a place where you can get by with speaking English, especially if you're living in one of the more developed areas, somewhere like Lisbon, or in maybe an area with more tourism, more foreigners like the Algarve, and up in Porto as well. So even though I speak Spanish, my Portuguese, not so good, but I have been there 4 or 5 times and I've always been able to get around just fine there. A couple other places that we didn't mention in previous retirement videos that you can live in Portugal are the Azores and also Madeira Islands, which have fantastic climates. One of my favorite places definitely is Madeira. Very, very friendly people, lots of English spoken there, lots of British expats, and also a lot of foreigners from around the world, a lot of digital nomads. So it's an idyllic place. You've got that beautiful blue sea views, you've got a lot of nature, a lot of hiking, incredibly safe, and also, pretty good fireworks display come January 1st. On the downside, yes, Portugal did restructure their NHR tax regime a couple of years ago. So now foreigners have to pay more taxes there, but very similarly to Spain, people tend to see that it is a positive trade-off when you look at the quality of life and lifestyle there and the nice weather, the nice people. So I don't hear many complaints about the taxes, to be honest. It's more about people that haven't moved there that talk about it versus people that have moved there. The housing prices are also another obvious one. It's changed so much in the past 5 to 10 years, and I know that the Portuguese people have felt this more than anyone, but the prices can be a lot higher now. You're looking at $700 or $800 per month in some of the smaller towns around the country, probably closer to $1,000 a month if you're in Porto, and definitely at least $1,000 or $1,500 per month or more in Lisbon. And if you're renting short term, it can be even higher. I've seen crazy prices there. I think my friend was paying one year $7,000 a month for like a luxury Airbnb in the center of Porto. So in the center of Lisbon, excuse me. So the prices can range wildly. You definitely want to make sure that you are, staying short term for a short time and then looking for a more permanent long-term solution where you can bring down that housing cost. One subscriber says, Portugal is amazing. Moving there was the best decision ever and I live well. Whereas a Portuguese person who said her roots are from there, however, she wouldn't send anyone to retire there right now because of frustration around immigration and housing prices. But again, even if that might be true, it's not something that I perceive when I'm in Portugal the same way that I don't perceive it on the streets, talking to people, conversing with people when I'm in Spain either. Next on our list, Costa Rica, which International Living seems to love. It's always in like the top 3 to 5 places on their retirement index. It's a place that I lived for many years, about 8 years, and it's a place that's a great option for retirees. It's one of the countries on this list that does not tax you on worldwide income. They won't tax your pensions. So if you're living in Costa Rica and your income is coming from outside of the country, they won't tax it. Other countries in South America, Colombia, Argentina, Ecuador, a lot of these countries really encourage retirees to go there, and they make the bar quite low financially to be able to move there. So typically with around $1,000 per month and pension on the pensionado visa in Costa Rica, you can move there, you can retire there, and you can enjoy the Pura Vida lifestyle. Now, you might have enough to get the retirement visa, but that doesn't mean you'll have enough to have the best quality of life because the cost of living in Costa Rica is so high. It's one of the higher countries in Latin America, along with Chile. And I've talked to a lot of Costa Ricans and they really don't know how people in their country live with such high prices and such low salaries comparatively. A lot of the salaries can be below $400 per month, $1,000 per month. Even if you have a really good job, you'll be lucky to make $1,500 or $2,000 per month. But of course, if you're retired, you don't have to worry about getting jobs, but you do have to worry about the high prices of food, electronics. There's a lot of import taxes. Cars are very expensive. So if you're thinking of moving to Costa Rica, you could live on maybe $1,500 per month, $2,000 per month as a single person there. Also for a couple, maybe $2,500 per month if you're keeping a very strict budget. But you could also go the other way and spend $2,500 or $3,000 per month on a luxury oceanfront condo with an ocean view to rent there. And the property prices have gone up so much in the past 20 years as well. So you can still find reasonable prices, but not beachfront or, not in the very center of the city in very walkable areas. But another downside for Costa Rica is the safety there. It's no secret that Costa Rica has had some security problems. For many years, it had this reputation for being the Switzerland of Central America and being such a peaceful place because there's no national army, but there's still security problems there. There's a lot of corruption, there's infrastructure problems, driving through potholes and rivers. And even though it's a country that's trending green, there's still problems with pollution and a lot of other things. So I've had some clients go there on exploratory trips and then change their minds and say, okay, it's not exactly what I thought, and they want to move somewhere else. But, if you love Latin America and you like that kind of culture and you want to be in an ecotourism wonderland, it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been, with amazing wildlife and nature and, stunning beaches, just straight out of a postcard. So if you're looking for something like that and you're on a fixed pension, then Costa Rica could be for you. If you want to go more into depth about what it's like living in Costa Rica and why expats sometimes leave, then I will also link to that video in a card and below. But I found some quotes from our last retirement video where Lucia from Brazil said she's been 3 times to Costa Rica. The first time in 2002, she was robbed when leaving the bank. After that, in 2013, she had all of her luggage stolen from a rental car, and then the year later, they stole her surfboard at a hotel. So she says Mexico is safer for sure. This is all anecdotal. But if we look at the Global Peace Index, Costa Rica ranks 45th and Mexico ranks 135th. So you can't always take people's word at face value. Everyone's going to have a different individual experience. A Costa Rican living in the US says that they wouldn't retire there for safety reasons and also for the high cost of living. They say every time they go to visit home that groceries are more expensive in Costa Rica than they are in Las Vegas, which I can definitely see. If you're shopping at the more expensive stores like Automercado or even Mas por Menos, groceries can be very expensive. So if you're going to be moving to Costa Rica, I definitely recommend shopping at the outdoor markets, the produce markets, the ferias, the organic markets. You can, get a whole haul of produce and groceries for the week for $20, $30, $40, which could cost you $100 or $80 if you go buy that in the supermarket. Panama has been moving up on this list from number 4 a couple of years ago. Now it's up to number 2. And Costa Rica's neighbor to the south, it does have some benefits compared to Costa Rica, namely being the lower cost of living there. You can shave about $500 to $1,000 per month off your cost of living by living in Panama versus Costa Rica. And the safety, Costa Rica ranks 54 on the Global Peace Index, not 45, but Panama ranks 84. So it really does depend on, crime rates, what's getting reported, which areas that you're in. But if you're looking for a place with a warm weather, low cost of living, proximity to the beach, and a very accessible retirement visa, then Panama is a very good option. You're also, kind of in the center when it comes to traveling to North America, South America, although flights out of Panama and Costa Rica as well can be pretty expensive. Sometimes, $400 or $500 and up. I've seen prices $800, $900, $1,600 round trip to the US during peak season, so make sure to plan ahead if you think you're going to be traveling home. But Panama is known for its quite developed healthcare system. It ranks 59 globally, which is pretty good for Latin America. And if the city and the canal area and the beaches are too hot for you, which they definitely do get really, really hot and humid there, then you can check out some of the valley areas like Boquete, for example. What some of my clients have said about living there is, it's not the most walkable place because you are in the mountains, so public transportation's not the best. So if you don't have a car, then it might not be for you. But I also have some clients living there who are really enjoying their retirement, love the community, take Spanish classes, love the weather, and also say that there's a lot less bugs than they expected. And I found that about Costa Rica too. You can actually live in places without screens on your windows because it's not as bad as I thought it would be. Another pro is that Panama has a dollarized economy. They use the Balboa, which is 1-to-1 with the US dollar. So that's nice that you don't have to worry about, foreign exchange rates and things like that. Also, that retirement visa comes with a lot of benefits. It's a permanent visa that you can qualify for with around $1,000 per month in pension, and then you can get lots of discounts on utilities, entertainment, medical care, things like that. So it's a nice program, and it's nice to feel welcomed into a country that really encourages having foreigners retire there. And although the income requirement for the Jubilado visa, like Costa Rica, is quite low, around $1,000, the cost of living in Panama is probably going to be more than that for you. So you're looking at closer to $2,000 per month, maybe a little bit more if you're a couple. In the cities as well, you can get fast internet, fiber optic internet. So even though Panama rates really low on the internet global speed test, around 197, you can still get pretty fast speeds, especially in the cities. One subscriber of my channel said she was just in Boquete, Panama, planning to retire there at the end of the year. But another subscriber agrees with me, a fellow Floridian, who said he really felt it when I said in a previous video that Panama is one of the hottest, most humid places I've ever been. He said, "I've never sweat so much in my life as when I was lugging a pair of suitcases along Avenida Balboa." I hear you, senor. I've been there. Now, a country that's notably absent that was on this list a couple years ago is Ecuador. And that one doesn't surprise me because I went to Ecuador this year and I didn't have the best experience. I was terrified the whole time. I witnessed a shooting where someone died. I heard about multiple shootings in the week or so that I was there, and I was scared. And so between, the violence there, the drug cartels, the political instability in Ecuador, despite having a low cost of living, an amazing climate, super friendly people, great food, so much nature, so much beauty, so many assets, so much to offer in Ecuador, the instability there and the security issues just really pull it off of the best places to retire list. So I'm not surprised that that's not there. However, I do have people that are still moving to Cuenca, which is probably the safest city in Ecuador, has incredible weather, and could still be a place to keep on your list. Colombia is another country that fell off the list from previous years. And also, a lot of you have mentioned in previous years that there's not many Southeast Asian countries on this list that are very affordable for retirees. So countries that are notably missing include the Philippines, Vietnam, Cambodia, and also Laos. And the winner this year is actually someplace that was 8th on the list last year. This is a place with beautiful Mediterranean coastlines, sunny days, a low cost of living compared to other Western European countries, and that country is Greece. I was definitely surprised to see Greece at number 1 on this list, although it has been trending a bit more online as one of the better places to go. Definitely because it is one of the more affordable countries in Western Europe. You can live comfortably here on $1,200, $1,500, maybe $2,000 per month. Rent for a 2-bedroom apartment averages around $900 per month, and a meal with wine can cost $15 to $20 depending on where you're dining. Greece is a very diverse and beautiful place to live. You have Athens and Thessaloniki for city life. You have islands like Santorini and Crete, or smaller towns for a quieter pace. On the downside, Greece is not known for being the most economically stable country, doesn't have the best infrastructure, not known as being the friendliest place, although I think that might have a lot to do with the language barrier, because Greek is very difficult to learn, English is not widely spoken, but also it doesn't have the best healthcare in Europe. It's ranking number 65 globally, and surprisingly, it's pretty low on the Global Peace Index. It's 45 out of 163 countries, and that's mostly for the perception of criminality, a higher than average police rate, incarceration rate. You know, I do remember when I was in Athens hearing things of people getting robbed, mugged, pickpocketed. Not the safest place in Europe if you compare it to other countries on this list, like Spain is number 25 on the list, Portugal is number 7, so Greece definitely a little bit less stable there, but they do have a retirement visa, and they also have a golden visa. So one of the few remaining European countries with a real estate golden visa. Although if you're looking to retire in Europe as a path to citizenship by naturalization, this is not the best option for you. It's notoriously difficult to qualify for that. You'd be better off in a place like Portugal, Spain, France, somewhere where you can learn the language easier, pass the test, and integrate better with the culture. But what people really love about Greece is definitely the climate, the food, the lower cost of living, and so you've got a few trade-offs there with the bureaucracy, the healthcare, the safety. Let me know where you'd like to move from this list in the comments below, or maybe somewhere else that didn't make the list. You can always reach out to me for relocation support in planning your move, and to know what are the cheapest places to retire in the world, watch this video next.